Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say. Modern slavery refers to situations where individuals are exploited and deprived of their freedom for personal or commercial gain. This encompasses practices such as forced labor, human trafficking, debt bondage, forced marriage, and sexual exploitation. Victims are often coerced through violence, threat, deception, or abuse of power, rendering them unable to refuse or leave their exploitative circumstances. Now, modern-day slavery is often hidden in plain sight, influencing daily interactions in ways many people do not immediately recognize. It manifests in various aspects of our society, from domestic work to street vending and even in corporate structures. It's another episode on your favorite primetime show, Ways, What Are You Saying? And my name remains Osayua Mesale. So today I want to turn our attention to a recent report that was quoted from the Office of the Minister of Women Affairs in Nigeria, saying that 1.4 million Nigerians are trapped in modern-day slavery. That's an alarming number. Now remember, Ways is all about you. You are the why in Ways. So be a part of this conversation and be a part of every of our conversation every single day. Add your voice to the discussion. You can also head to our YouTube page or YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button at Official Upgrade TV. Like, share, and invite your families and friends to join and watch the show right now. And when I open the phone lines, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this word, modern-day slavery, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts, what you think, because just watching our day-to-day activities within the country and everything, just look around you. It is hidden in plain sight. It's happening, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts on modern-day slavery. As always, please let me allow you to ponder on my quote for the day. It says, the tool to crush modern slavery exists, but the political will is lacking. See how we can just easily bring it back to our governance structure again. All right, so we'll delve into the conversation much later, but I'm off on a break. When I come back, I want to let you in on my news interest for the day. Stay.
Is a season of love. In partnership with Yasin, Heartlines will be giving away 4 luxurious, beautiful gifts to 4 lucky women. So stay tuned to the show to find out how you can win these incredible, luxurious gifts. And yes, gentlemen, you can participate to win on behalf of your better half, because truly, love is in the air. So catch me live Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. on Heartlines.
All right, thanks for staying with me. Now, US President Donald Trump has signed, of course, several executive orders regarding hot button topics on social issues. And of course, from the report, it said that, um, he wanted to kind of like decongest conversations around. Let me just quickly read. He wants to decongest conversations around um, race, gender, campus protesters, which are often, talking points during his campaign. He says he wants to also what he called an order end radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling. It seeks to limit teachings on race-related issues, gender identity, whilst establishing a commission to promote patriotic education that paints the United States in a positive light. So imprinting anti-American, subversive, harmful, and false ideologies on our nation's children not only violates the long-standing anti-discrimination civil rights law in many cases, but usurps basic parental authority. That's what the directive is saying. This one order called Ending Radical Indoctrination in K-12 Schooling. Well, let's see how that goes. I think if you ask my opinion about Trump, especially this particular one, I would say that I feel previous administrations in the US, they kind of like took it too far, because there were so many videos going viral of how young children were not even allowed, because you see, I said this thing yesterday, or was it yesterday or the day before yesterday I said it, and I'll repeat it again. We're all human beings, right? And all our senses are quite important in receiving information. And, for a young child that is still developing, right, you are in your formative years, right, you're still very, very malleable. So it means that there has to be a deliberate intention to what's called feed your mind with the right information. So for me, I think previous administrations in the US, they went too far, especially when it comes to issues around gender, issues around, race issues. So it was getting too much out of hand, where you are now putting different things in textbooks and all of that. I get it that you have a sexuality you're trying to project, but I feel like you should allow these children just be children. When they get to a certain age, they can now eventually say that, you know what, this is my ideology, this is my sexual orientation, not what we saw. And to the point where you are afraid to name the gender of your child. For goodness sake, we all know that based on our biological makeup, right? I have a breast, I have a vagina. That is what makes me a woman. A man has a penis and he doesn't have a breast. That's what makes him. So, these are the few things that makes it, a bit difficult for some people to not just love Trump, no matter what, other of his excesses. But I think, yeah, I particularly, have, a positive review on this particular order that he has signed into law. Then I'll move on to my next story. This is good news. It says Nigeria's yearly e-payment transaction breaks 1 quadrillion mark. This is amazing. So amid the economic hardship and digital glitches that dominated last year's financial transactions via electronic platform payments, via, of course, online, right? Electronic platform payment rose by nearly 80% to break the quadrillion mark for the first time in 2024. Specifically, e-payment transactions rose by 80% above 600 trillion recorded in 2023, and this hit about 1.07 quadrillion. This is according to data released by Nigerian Interbank Statement System, that's NIBS. While the e-payment data showed a steady increase throughout the 12 months of the year, the highest value was recorded, of course, why not, that's in December. And this analysis showed that in January, from 887.58 million volumes of transaction, Nigeria spent about 72.1 trillion in February, and 905 million transactions valued at 97.3 trillion were closed. March saw 986.6 million transactions valued at 83 trillion. April witnessed 953.6 million transactions valued at 75.3 trillion, while May witnessed, the list goes on. May witnessed 1.02 billion transactions, which resulted in 87.4 trillion. So if you want to learn about the full story, right, you can head on to The Guardian, right? In their bio, you will see the full story. But I just wanted to point out, do you know that therein lies great opportunities? Because I know how right now it is very difficult for you to see me do cash. Anything I'm doing is transactions and I'm doing transfers. If you cannot accept transfer, I will literally just walk away from your store. If I cannot use my card or I cannot use the transfer. And don't forget, I think some of these transactions would also be tied to the price of the fuel prices. Because I will tell you, because of the volume of cash that you will need to buy like fuel these days, you hardly see those cash attendants, holding cash, unlike before where you see a lot of cash with them. Most people now just do a lot of bank transfers. It's a good thing. It's a good thing because it means that we're able to really track what our transactions in terms of, that goes on. And for people that, I think fintechs are balling right now because there's no better time to be alive right now and to be in Nigeria right now. So this is good news for all the fintech guys. Me now, I have to start finding a way to tap into this quadrillion because I have to go and find a way that I can, tap into this market because it sees, there's great potential in that business. Now I know why fintechs are just springing up from left, right, and center. I'll probably go and take a course in fintech so I can learn more. So I thought to touch this final story. So last year, Meta had said that they were going to cut down about 10K jobs. In 2023, they said they were going to cut down 10K job in 2023. And guess what has happened? So it was announced that about 3,600 staff were, of course, they were fired. And this is coming, this is the interesting part of the story. This is coming off of the back of low performance, right? So you see, this is what I want to say to anybody. Right now, we are saying that there's no job, there's no job. Do you know what is going to eventually start to happen? Employees will start to check and see what productivity you are bringing to the organization. If they cannot measure your productivity, if they cannot measure your input, right, it will be a no-brainer. You will be the first person that will be fired out of that organization. And I'm saying this to everybody that cares to listen, especially if you're a young person, right? This is an opportunity for you to look deep again and say, you know what am I doing? How am I doing it? Am I being efficient for my company? Am I being effective for my company? Am I being efficient for my company? Because right now, this is the decision. If you read the story from what was said, it says that the company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, announced that roughly 5% of the company's workforce will be affected as Meta aims to accelerate its performance management process. So this is pure performance decision. So it's not about sentiment, maybe my boss does not like me or whatever, no. So in the memo that he gave to his employees, he explained that the company would be moving more swiftly to remove low performing staff, right? So it is clear. Every organization right now, I can tell you for free, even within my organization, we've had to shuffle a lot of things. You have to be intentional because the truth is that money is not easy to be made, right? Or let me confess positive. Money will come easily. However, it is important you understand that once you walk into any organization, you should be asking yourself, am I adding value? If the answer is no, then you are in the wrong place. You must find the place where you are appreciated and your value is clearly, you understand, undoubtedly seen. Very, very important because that is what will make employees decide whether you stay in the organization or you leave the organization. So I thought to mention that. So I'll take a break now and let's discuss modern day slavery. Stay with me.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Hi, thanks for staying tuned. Now, the Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, has said that a staggering 1.4 million Nigerians are trapped in modern slavery. Speaking as special guest at the 2025 Yearly Academic Summit at the University of Abuja, the minister lamented that most victims of modern-day slavery were women and girls. Now, in Nigeria, modern slavery is a significant concern. Now, the 2023 Global Slavery Index estimates that in 2021, approximately 1.6 million people in Nigeria were living in modern slavery, equating to a prevalence of 7.8 individuals per 1,000 people. So this places Nigeria fifth among African countries in terms of modern slavery prevalence. Forced labor is prevalent in various sectors, including street vending, domestic servitude, mining, agriculture, and textile manufacturing. Men and boys are often exploited in street vending, mining, and of course agriculture, whilst women and girls are disproportionately affected by domestic servitude and forced sexual exploitation. Many victims are trafficked within Nigeria or from neighboring countries under false promises of employment or education, only to face exploitative labor practices and abuse upon arrival. So it's important for us to set that background, for us to understand what we're dealing with, right? I don't want us to go through all the things, because really, if you look at it, if you really look at it, the amount of modern-day slavery that happens, it is alarming. I remember the ways, the exclusive interview we had with the governor of Zamfara State that Marianne had when she visited Zamfara. One of the things he said was the fact that whilst he came into power as governor, that some of the teachers were still being paid 7,500 naira salary. Is that not modern-day slavery? Imagine, as at that time, minimum wage was at 30,000 naira, but they were paying teachers 7,500 naira. So the first thing he did was to, first of all, move that money up, to at least the minimum wage. Now just imagine what is happening. So if you really want to look deeply into the subject of modern-day slavery, we literally would not leave here tonight. We will continue to talk about it for the next 7 days. But let me break down some of the things that I have said. So for instance, domestic servitude in homes. You know that many households employ domestic workers, like your housemaid, your nannies, your cooks, some of whom are underpaid, overworked, or even physically abused. Some domestic workers are children who, of course, have been trafficked from rural areas under the false promises of education or better life. Employers may, of course, sometimes confiscate their identification documentations. They also restrict movement for them, and they also prevent them from making any form of contact. So whether it is phone calls or whatever, they do not have access. if you really look at that neighbor that you have right now in your house, you understand, that has one 12-year-old girl or a 14-year-old girl doing omodo, that's what they call them, right? What do we call that? So modern day slavery is like in plain sight, it's not hidden. And how we have come to accept and normalize it is just what baffles me. So when this woman is talking about, the minister is saying that about 1.4 million people and the most affected are women and children. Of course, I even feel, in my opinion, from a population of over 200 million, I feel this number, right, if a proper census is being carried out, I feel that this number might even be quadrupled, right? Because we truly, if we look around us every single day, we see it happening. You see a small person being called a gatesman, different things happening. So we move on to forced exploitative labor in businesses. Now you can imagine some construction sites, just look around you, you will see it. Some construction sites, some farms, some textile factories and mining industry rely on workers who are underpaid or forced to work in unsafe conditions. Like, these are things that we see on a norm. In the informal sector, you will see street hawkers. Who are the people hawking? Who are the people doing all sorts of things on the street today? Often children, young children. They are made to work long hours with no access to education. Now, again, these are things we see on a daily basis. The reason I said I wanted us to turn our attention to what this report was is because I want us to see clearly that if we look around us every day, modern day slavery is very prevalent. In fact, many small businesses and corporate offices unknowingly source materials or services from supply chains that rely on forced labor. In the bid to maximize profit, right, a lot of people rely on this cheap labor. But if you go and check, right, you will see that these people are underpaid, they are overworked, they are underaged. It's very sad. We also can look at modern day slavery from the standpoint of sexual exploitation and forced prostitution. It's still very much, prevalent. Like a red light district, brothels, even high-end social circles. You see women and girls that are often coerced into sex work, controlled by traffickers who most of their earnings are being taken from them, right? They take most of their earnings from those young girls. And some women are lured into relationships or job offers that turn into exploitative situations where they cannot even leave. Sex trafficking, of course, is fueled by demand, meaning that every single day, consumers, knowingly or unknowingly, may be complicit. Because if there are no demand for, the market, there will not be sex trafficking. It means that there's a high demand. But although, when you see all the girls right now, they call them hookup girls. They gladly go on social media and call themselves hookup girls, say that they do hookup. You understand? Do you know that modern day slavery is no longer something that is being forced? Modern day slavery, in my opinion, has been programmed in our subconscious, where we think that, okay, these are the things that we can do to be able to earn a living. Do you understand? A lot of times, people voluntarily submit themselves to that kind of lifestyle, where they are being treated anyhow, all because what? They want to have, a means to either feed or to survive. So that does also happen. So sometimes it's not even forced. You actually willingly submit yourself. There was a statement that was said that our forefathers were taken forcefully with chains, right? But we willingly submit ourselves to slavery in this modern age. So it's not all the time that the slavery is forced. Sometimes we are the ones that actually go and walk into those things ourselves, just because we probably maybe want to sustain a lifestyle or want to live, a life at least, So yeah, that's on sex trafficking. Debt bondage and unfair employment practices also are forms of modern day slavery. So employees working under abusive conditions. This happens a lot with domestic workers, right? Where you see your domestic staff, like literally I've seen all sorts. You start to see even the workers being even sexually abused. Another a place you find this are like factory laborers, right? Factory laborers, you see them I mean, there was a report where a laborer literally his hand got cut off from a machine that was faulty, that was refused to be repaired by the manufacturing company. So this is where you would think that our labor laws, you understand, would be really active. This is why we have an NLC, not to be organizing protests everywhere. The NLC is supposed to ensure that there is fair employment practices, there is fair wage, right? That some of these companies, when they employ people and they don't put them in the right conditions, they are able to sue those companies and they are able to get some level of compensation. But we don't see this happening. Apart from even domestic workers, factory laborers, we also have salespeople. You see all these people you send on the road. You must go and make sales. You must go and whatever. You see them trekking. In fact, there's one I used to see, all those insurance people. When I sight them like this, even by the way the shoe of the insurance person don't file, you go no say, this guy don't suffer. You know, because they are trying to make sales. Salespeople are also part of those people that suffer, you know, some level of unfair employment conditions, right? And this and most of them, they may be unable to even leave because they are now owing, because in the bid to at least even survive, some of them take loans from these companies, right? They owe the companies. And sometimes, despite the fact that they are being unfairly paid, they also owe them money, right? They owe them salaries. You know, they owe a lot of things. So there are so many things that would be accrued that the company would just be owing them. Maybe for the sales guys, their transportation costs going up and down, they'll just be putting it as MOU, but that MOU, what do they call it? I owe you, rather, I owe you. You know, it's never paid. So some of these employers, they now have to stay in that company because with the hope that all of these, remunerations would be remitted back into their account. So some job seekers, you know, especially in sectors like entertainment, hospitality, or even manual labor, are also forced to work for little or no pay under the guise of they are learning the trade. We see all these things, right? You know, so that's why sometimes I want to pause here and say that when you find a good employer, you also have to understand and identify. Because sometimes, you know, we easily dismiss the fact that there are people that are really, really terrible employers. So when you see someone trying as much as possible to want to give a fair pay to do this, you should also appreciate that, because those things are not easy to come by. I've seen the one that tell you that you are learning the trade, so whatever work you're doing, you're paying off for the training. And they don't even pay you at all. They say it under the guise of volunteer, or they say, okay, you know what, you're serving. This happens a lot in churches, though. It happens a lot in churches where you see a lot of people say, okay, you know what, they're coming to work and they're working for free. How do you expect the person not to steal tomorrow, pastor? When you're not paying the person's salary, you're saying the person is doing the work of the Lord. We need to be intentional, right? There are so many things that have been normalized in this country that I consider modern-day slavery. You say, oh, you want to go and give service to the Lord and all of that. You're not earning an income. So how do you expect, you know, for the person to actually live a decent life? It is hard, right? It is really hard. And you see this also play out in some settings, right? Some business settings where they say, come and you just be working and you won't earn your money. And, you know, at the end of the whatever so amount of time you guys agree on, you'll be settled and all of that. I'll say, come see, come sir. Sometimes some people are good enough to say, okay, you know what, they established them. But I feel like, you know, where we are today, except you are truly giving that person a very, very comfortable and decent life, then I think you need to be conscious of, you know, paying something tangible. Child labor is also something that we need to touch on, because child labor in every service, in every home has become a service, right? You see a lot of young children in homes, even in marketplaces, on the streets. I've said this several times, right? You see them helping to sell. To some extent, I think they have been able to curb child hawking, right? I still see a lot of street hawkers, but if you see the children on those streets, you don't see them selling, you see them begging instead. And I still feel like, in fact, that is even worse, right? And you see these children begging for money, carrying loads, different kinds of things. All these are often controlled by traffickers or syndicates. I've said this several times. We need to consciously stop giving people money, especially children, when we see them on the streets. Because you know what? There's one syndicate, what's it called, grandmaster somewhere watching. It's a syndicate. So for every money that you hand over to those students, it is a business for them, because they know that children can draw some emotions from the adults or from other people. They use children. So you see them carrying babies. You see them using young children all to go and beg. All those things are forms of modern day slavery. And the more we keep on feeding them by giving them money, the more they will continue to expand their business. Have you noticed that you come to a street, it starts from one beggar. The next day, this business, they move, or market, they move for here. You see the second beggar. Next thing, you see the beggar's wife who come with a newborn baby. It is like that, and it just grows like that. The numbers will just increase. So we need to be intentional about, I don't even do it. You can't even catch me give anybody money on the street that is begging, right? I don't believe in it, right? So some children are being recruited as domestic helps, and of course in farmlands and laborers, they're also recruited to go on the streets to beg. So you have to be intentional, so, and again, something about the wealthy people, they also justify these exploitative behaviors, and they say that they're helping these children to survive, ignoring that this is a systemic issue and it traps those children in that state of servitude. I don't know. I really don't know. I've never been able to wrap my head around when I see young children being employed as house help. I don't know how you do it. I don't think you have a conscience, because I have children. I will never do that, right? So I don't know. Every nanny that I have employed, I didn't do much, probably 2 in my time, or 3. One was just a brief whatever. They were all matured women. I've never employed a child. I don't understand how you do it. And it's so bad that some of them are so terrible. They literally beat these children up. They maltreat them. Give them the worst living conditions, and you expect that child, to take care of your children, and you will be comfortable. I don't know how these people do it all. So let's move on to organ trafficking. Remember our famous senator that the wife just got released? Organ trafficking and also forced begging in hospitals or black market clinics. People may also be pressured or tricked into selling their organs under these exploitative conditions. See, these things, you would think that these things don't exist, but they are there. Forced begging rings where children or disabled individuals are used to solicit money. It exists. Apart from the street begging, there's still that one where in the hospital regions you will see them. And these individuals rarely keep the money. As I said, somebody is somewhere trying to collect that money. So we need to be intentional about what modern day slavery looks like. Are we talking about exploitation in the digital space? Some social media influencers or even agencies exploit young people, right? We've seen the case of Mercy Chinwo and Mr. Easy. This is not me alleging that this was an exploitative situation, but I'm saying that I have seen agencies, right, record labels, different people promising these artists or these talented people contracts that would be very juicy and mouth-watering. They tell them, I'll give you a modeling job, I'll give you all sorts of things, which then leads them to, forced labor or trafficking. Several times, I don't know if you guys receive these things, but I always get this online job advertisement. I say, when did I apply for a job, for goodness sake? You will see it. They will tell you it's a location, wanting, come to this place and all of that. Oftentimes, these people will lure their victims, right? And then, of course, traffic them under the guise of overseas employment. So all of these things that I've mentioned, right, these are the forms of, modern day slavery. So if you then look at them, would you still agree that it is only 1.4 million people that are trapped in modern day slavery? Do you understand? Would you agree with these statistics? I think the ministry should go back. And I also think that our census board should go back, because if you really want to check the reason some of the things that are happening in Nigeria are happening is because a lot of people are not empowered to be able to do things for themselves. So people are highly dependent, right, on different kind of sources to be able to just survive. So what will I call that thing if it's not slavery? where I don't even have the capacity to do anything for myself. Always not in any form of financial liberty to do things, right? So let's go on a short break. When we come back from that break, I'll share more insights on how we can start to intentionally curb modern day slavery in Nigeria. Stay.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
All right, thanks for staying tuned. So if you just tuned in, we're having a conversation around a report that was made by the Minister of Women Affairs, where she had mentioned that 1.4 million Nigerians are trapped in modern slavery, and also stating that the most affected victims are women and girls. And that is the basis for our conversation. So we're asking that, are most Nigerians truly trapped in modern day slavery? And of course, before we went on the break, I had broken down what modern day slavery looks like. And I'm asking a question. Do you agree that we're just 1.4 million people in modern day slavery? I think we have a lot more than that, if you ask me. All right, so please let me hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp. So 081-8038-4663. Our phone lines are also now open. The numbers to call are 07025007749 or 07014242420. Let's hear what you have to say. You know, addressing modern day slavery, of course, you know it requires a very multifaceted approach. But before I go on to the plans on how we can curb it, right? Let me read a comment from YouTube. Charlene Edwards says, "Hello, Osa. I can't understand how people are taking children to be their domestic staff or have them for sex work. Sheer evil beings. I can tell you for free." And this thing is so prevalent, like literally, right? It is every day. You can see it, right? You see one woman, you can clearly tell that this is a murder, right? You can clearly tell. And it happens, and we've so normalized it. I've never been able to wrap my head around why I would go and employ a child to say to come and be my help. And I've had people do that, and they don't feel, and they don't think it's even they don't think it's a crime, but it does happen. So how do we combat this day in our day-to-day living, right? Because it is what happens, it transpires daily in our lives. So I'd like to say that we first need to be very observant, because you see, it takes a level of observation to then tell if something is going wrong. So if someone seems very fearful, if someone seems very malnourished or overly controlled by another person, they could be a victim of modern day slavery. These are the ways, and I really wish, you know, apart from the domestic violence desk in Lagos State, or, I mean, I'm sure some other states have also enacted their own bodies that curbs anything's violence, right, or abuse. It would be nice to just have something around how we can just protect human beings in this country. Because if you notice some of these things, like they are hidden in plain sight, you can see it, right? you can see that this person definitely, and even with those omodos, once she brings all her children, even if they are the same age, you can clearly tell that this one is different from the rest of the children. I don't even know. So if you have decided that you want to hire a child, can you not just be compassionate enough to even take care of that child? It's something that I can't wrap my head around. I have tried. It's not adding up for me. So we need to start to educate communities about the dangers of trafficking and, of course, the tactics that are being used by traffickers to prevent victimizations. Now here, I'll go to a village. Look at me all glammed up and everything. I'll tell the mother, oh, this is what I'm doing. I want to take your daughter. I want to take care of her. I want to take her to school. This is what people have done. It's an age-old trade, like they say. It is not a new thing. They still do it all the time. So you still see young girls being taken from their parents or young boys being taken from their parents, all in the guides of, oh, I want to better their life, I want to educate them and all of that. They come and it is something completely different that they're saying. So many people that participate in this, they participate in it unknowingly because they don't know that they are unknowingly participating in modern-day slavery by either hiring unpaid workers or ignoring these clear signs of exploitations or even giving out your children, because whether you like it or not, plus the giver, plus the receiver of that child, both of you are in the act of. So if there was something, a law, you will be held liable for, that offense. So we need to be intentional about raising awareness. It's very key to enhance and to enforce laws against human trafficking and forced labor, ensuring that, of course, the perpetrators are prosecuted and victims receive justice. Now, this is it. When we talk about the justice system in Nigeria and why we want it to be functional, it's because if we start to intentionally, like, met out justice to people, like you go to jail, you go to this, all of these things automatically will just disappear. So we need to be very intentional. And whilst we're doing that, we need to then establish, I would say, establish shelters, right? Like rehabilitation homes, counseling homes, orphanages, because some of them are really young children that would it would be nice for them to be kept in an orphanage, to then assist the survivors in reintegrating back into the society. For the girls that have been taken out, I remember that Real Woman Foundation, one of the, my church, of course, if you know, I go to Daystar. So the wife of the pastor, Pastor Nikki Adeyemi, she runs Love Home Orphanage, and she also runs a rehabilitation center for girls. Most times when there are, like, I know the Chibok girls at some point, a few of them that needed to be rehabilitated, they brought them to Lagos, and she had absorbed some of them. So sometimes, right, those kind of centers that are able to provide some level of counsel, rehabilitation, and reintegration into the society is needed. So whilst we're doing all of that, it's a holistic approach. There's no this is what we're doing and we stop. No, it has to be a full circle. So we are doing the legal side, we're doing the whistleblowing side, where we're raising the alarms and all of that. We're withdrawing the children. When we withdraw the children, where do we put them? So we then need to create that, that center. Please, we have to intentionally be conscious and report suspected cases. So once we have identified, if you notice that there are signs of forced labor or trafficking, report immediately to appropriate authorities. Now, this is where it's a bit tricky, because Nigerians will tell you, say, you go report to police. You will report. They go, before you know anything, somebody will come to your house at night and say, because even now, because of this lack of trust between citizens and our law enforcement agencies, we don't even know who to trust anymore. You see why corruption is really dealing with us as a people? Because honestly speaking, you're supposed to report these cases to the appropriate authorities. But now a lot of people are also afraid. But we can't stop. We have to keep on encouraging local communities to keep reporting suspicious activities and support these anti-trafficking initiatives. You would see it, right? One woman will come to the village and say, oh, she's whatever, and she goes in and go and get all these young girls in the bit of saying she wants to try to, give them jobs and all of that. We need to be intentional about saying that that kind of person should be thoroughly checked. Thoroughly checked. I have not said that they are not genuine people there, but why? And usually they have specifics of who they are taking. So we must work with also, because they are international trafficking and all these labor, child labor, activities. So we need to also work with neighboring countries and international organizations. It is not in isolation. When somebody is into this, the business of trafficking, they don't work in isolation, because sometimes they have to even move those victims border to border, right? And for them to be able to do that, there is a syndicate of even security personnel that needs to clear them at different borders, right? So we need to also work with neighboring countries, international organizations, to also monitor and prevent some of this cross-border trafficking that does, happen. And I'll say another way to curb this, because one of the biggest challenges that we have, I've said this, and I will keep on saying it till I start to see really reasonable changes within our employment sector. We need to be intentional about providing vocational trainings and employment opportunities to vulnerable populations. Let us stop this hand-me-down situation where you hear federal government says, oh, they are distributing 5,000 naira to 5 billion people, whatever. That all those things are not sustainable. They are not sustainable. Instead, let us be intentional about empowering young people that will, become self-sufficient, and they start to earn a living for themselves. So, and one of the best ways to get this done is to intentionally start to provide academies, vocational training centers, where you can upskill people, like teach them a skill. I would say, because right now the world is going digital. For efficiency, look at what Mark Zuckerberg is saying. He has sacked 2,000, and his target is 10,000 people population. And this can be done if we provide real employment opportunities. And this then, so we need to be very intentional. Now, there's one thing that we have a madness with in this country, and it's a question of low prices, right? We just like cheap labor. Even if you ask me to, and I will not blame anybody, it's because we too that we are employing, we have to also be conscious that we do not want to put a salary that we cannot afford in the end. The economy is quite dense right now at the moment. We are hoping and praying that things begin to open up and flow. And that's why we really are looking forward to a time where our banks will begin to intentionally support small businesses. I've said this several times, and I'll continue to say it. SMEs are the drivers of any economy. If you want to see any tangible change in our economy today, you need to be intentional about empowering SMEs. And when we are talking empowerment, it is all-rounded empowerment, like end-to-end empowerment, where they are able to then mop up some of these unemployable or unemployed young people from the street. So we need to be intentional about this, because again, once we start to see things that are being excessively cheap, right, that should raise a suspicion. It may be that it is coming from an exploitative system, right? So, and businesses need to be conscious of that. Of course, even the consumers, we need to be conscious of that. So you have to now intentionally start to look at the business ethics that some of the businesses that we have, how they operate, some of their business ethics. Then you can now intentionally also choose those companies that ensure that fair wages and there are safe working conditions. By the time we start to boycott, we don't do that so often here in Nigeria. If we start to boycott, like literally, if anybody comes and calls out a company to say, oh, the wages are just terrible and all of that, and people intentionally start to boycott them, you will see that, some level of change, and it will curb some of these tendencies of modern-day slavery. I'll say that modern-day slavery thrives because it has been normalized in our daily lives. And I've said this several times. You look left, you look right. Things are happening. You just see people just being treated, anyhow, right? And that's why a boss will have the audacity to tell the staff, if you don't meet me in a hotel room, right, you're not getting that promotion. Or even a lecturer will tell a student to say, meet me somewhere, right? Or you won't get the grades that you earned, right? So if we have to break this cycle, it requires this collective awareness and action. And we need to be clear. If we are not conscious about implementing some of these strategies, then we might never make significant strides in reducing the prevalence of modern-day slavery and, of course, protecting our citizens. We need to be intentional. I don't know how else to say this, right? And as I wrap the conversation for this evening, I want you to look deep into what it is that you're doing. If you're a business, look deep into your business structure, right? Are there people that are being unfairly paid? Look at it and see how you can start to intentionally take steps. You know, you don't have to wait for any government to come and maybe like force plans to happen. And I wouldn't even blame you as a business, because even our government, right? For every time and every opportunity they get, you start to see a lot of I'm trying to control the words that I use, but that's what you start to see, exploitative actions, just, you know, being paddled round, or whatever it is I'll call it. Take, for instance, if you truly want to empower young people and you say you want to give them the money, why are we doing cash, right? Why are we not doing something that can be traced to the very last kobo? Some of these things are very clear in our eyes. So, because we have normalized corruption, because we have normalized treating people unfairly, all that is now accumulating into a ripple effect. And that's why, if you ask me, I would say that, please, I would like for us to go back to these figures that has come out from the Minister for Women Affairs. I feel so strongly that there are more Nigerians that are being trapped in modern-day slavery. You are in that job because you don't have a choice. And I always don't like the idea that you don't have a choice. You should have a choice as a human being. So I'll leave it at that, to say that most people are living under, what's it called, under a trapped modern-day slavery. I'll leave it at that. So on that note, right, let's be cautious, let's be vigilant, let's be intentional about being our brother's keepers. This thing, we say it, but not just mouth. If there's an opportunity not to be mean to someone, or not to manipulate someone, not to cheat someone, let us please try. I know it's a difficult thing to do. I know what I'm saying is a very difficult thing to do, because for every opportunity we think, oh, we are making profit. For me as a business person, of course, if I saw someone that is cheaper, I will definitely go with that cheaper person that can deliver the job, because that is what guarantees that I'm able to maximize profit. But in that sense, in that breath, we need to take a step back and see how our actions, right, is affecting the broader picture. Some children are not in school. Some children are on the streets begging. Some children wish they would be in school, right? Some women, right now as we speak, are being sexually exploited. Some girls are being sexually exploited. Some boys are being sexually exploited. Because sometimes they just feel that they don't have a choice. And there's a high link of, what's it called, your economic power, right, to how you submit yourself to modern-day slavery. It is kind of interwoven. So we need to be very clear and we need to be very intentional. I think I'll leave it there for the evening. Hopefully, we start to intentionally take steps, you know, towards making our society a lot more livable. And to our Nigerian government, some of your actions, you know, project modern-day slavery. I'll just stop there. I'm trying to control myself not to bring government to this matter. But thank you so much for watching. Before I go, ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's at Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, invite your families and friends to watch, and follow the conversation. Please share this link. Share this link. We need more people to learn about modern-day slavery, so you can check yourself and see if there's something wrong that you're doing. If you missed our quote for today, I think this is very clear. It says the tools to crush modern slavery exist, but the political will is lacking. The fact that our government, they are still struggling. Some governments, some states are still struggling to pay 70,000 naira minimum wage. For a country where 70,000 naira really does not do much again. What do you call that? Like I can go on and on. The list is endless, but I'll leave it there for the evening. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.